everybody. Another 1019 The Watch Commander episode. Man, you guys, calm down, everyone. Calm down. We're here. We are back. Special guest, Marlon Marrache, the IA guy. We're going to talk about internal affairs and the rat squad and the headhunters and the snitches. Captain Mike is here. He worked IA for 5 years. Myself, I am Snow White. I never worked in internal affairs. So big welcome to everybody. I just want to say hi. We've got Randall Glenn all the way from Canada here today. And let's see who else. Dale Hedges, one of our future guests, is Dale Hedges is here. And Moza
Yanta. That's the mom. So we got to keep it a PG-13.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. God bless Marlon's mom. And awesome. And ta-da-ta-da, Zippity Doodah is here. Tonight's entertainment. So we are, this is kind of cool. This is our second episode. And as soon as we, look at this. GJ is here as well. This is our second episode. This is exciting because as soon as Mike and I said, let's do this, pull up a bar stool at the bar at the shortstop, I immediately thought, Marlon's got to come on here. Marlon has got to come on the show.
Should I join the chat or what's going on?
You can join the chat, or I can put comments up. I'm going to throw comments up as we go as well.
Okay,
just
cool.
Go ahead and say whatever you want to say or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
So I've got non-alcoholic tonight. So I don't know what everybody else is doing. And this is really cool because we're going to be talking about internal affairs. And I'm not sure let's get to this real quick because I'm not sure what he's talking about. He's talking about cold case. Don't know what that's about.
Yeah, no, it might be the one where the former deputy sheriffs were indicted by the federal government for trying to get some Chinese guy to give up $37 million through an extortion scam.
Yeah.
It says Kathy Small. I don't know what he's talking about. Grant, you got to help me out.
We don't know what you're talking about, but that was a pretty interesting internal affair. Hi, Mom. That was a pretty interesting case. Marlon, did you see that where the feds went after these two LASD guys along with their what do they call them, mercenaries or something?
What are they? Former military mercenary types.
Mercenaries.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And they what happened was they had been caught. It's a Chinese thing where they were muscling on some Chinese guy, and they rousted him and stuff like that in his house or something, threatened him, and they got popped on some federal charges. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But
I like the Antioch, the test impersonation, bro. Oh, and you know what? No offense if he's listening or watching. There was one guy in there that said, "Hey, it's not a big deal." Oh yeah,
what?
I don't know what happened to him, but
what was that about?
Yeah.
I posted that there is an Antioch police department, and they had been caught. There was quite a few of them too. They had been caught paying people to go to college for them, so they could get a post pay boost.
Yes.
For their, so they, I graduated from college. Now I get the bump. How much was it?
How lame is that, man?
Oh yeah, the article just came out, and just a little. In addition to that scandal, if you will, they also had a tech scandal, something along the lines like Torrance PD not too long ago. And as a matter of fact, we, Savage Training Group, I'm an instructor for Savage Training Group, we had a couple of classes lined up to go to Antioch until that scandal went down, and we're like, no, we're good.
No. And are they the ones with the $75,000 incentive, lateral incentive?
That could be it. That could, yes. because they're hurting. I think half of the department's pretty much wiped out because of the scandals. So
that's pretty bad. I think though that this thing with the indictment before that went down for the going to college
text
for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And the texting thing. I think those were probably went to IA first. So
yes.
Somebody went on Instagram, Mike, and said that, well, everybody knows that none of the LASD people got their spots, and that they all cheated anyways to get into they saying under BACA. Under BACA, all kinds of stuff happened all the time.
You mean to get to IA?
No, to get financial incentives and college and all that. They were just inferring that it happens at IA at LASD all the time.
Whatever.
I don't know, but let's start out to get the conversation going. I got something that's really kind of irks me a little bit. So here's this is Marlon's YouTube channel. If you ever feel like listening to IA stuff and the behind the scenes, Marlon, how long did you work IA?
I worked IA for close to 5 years, but in those 5 years, about 3, close to 4 of those years, I did about 30 plus of these border rights hearings. So we'll talk about that a little later. And a lot of those hearings, which were like civil trials, same kind of setup and, the same format and all the arguments and just going back and forth. A lot of them were false statements, and the false allegations and the misleading allegations. I guess you could say those were the best bang for your buck if you're going to get that kind of assignment, because we can all agree we didn't want to, we don't want bad apples, we want bad actors. So I did out of the 30, about half of those or less were facing serious misconduct. So yeah, I worked. That was a long, almost 5 years, brother. Long.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play. Mike has not seen this video, but I'm going to play this video that's on Marlon's Internal Affairs, a police podcast YouTube channel. Interview with retired LAPD Commander Kyle Jackson. We're going to talk about whether there's a double standard.
Command officers, in my view, just based on my own experience, when complaints would come in involving command officers, they would, in many cases, they would disappear. It was very rare where you would ever hear about a command officer being suspended for an act of misconduct, and they were involved in situations that where closer scrutiny and perhaps discipline was appropriate.
Well, we've all heard rumors that command staff, once you get up to a certain elevation, you hear rumors about IA investigations or complaints, and then they all of a sudden, poof. Is that what's the deal with that, man? Because that wasn't supposed to be true.
Well, let me start off by saying this, just so we can get this conversation flowing, if you will. What I will say is that lately, especially with command staff officers, if they're going to come into the show, one of those questions is going to be, is there a double standard? Now, I'm speculating and I'm assuming here, but I think the answer is always going to be yes. Okay. Now, just because the answer is yes, what comes with that answer? The short answer is yes, is what I'm trying to say. The long answer is going to be something along the lines of what they experienced and what they saw. And so the goal, right, is to just get the word out, which is one of several reasons why they started to do this podcast. I think we can all agree there is a double standard. And you know what? Sometimes, Ken, if you might benefit out of it, and I don't want to sound, hypocritical, but hey, if I'm a captain or above and I got a DUI or something that happened off duty, look, if you're hooking me up and not giving me the same type of penalty you would give the rank and file, I don't know if I'm going to be one to say, you know what, Chief? No, good. You know what? Just give me the type of penalty that you would give the rank and file. And again, I've never been put in that predicament, obviously, because I never was a command staff officer. But I'm willing to say that some, right, the accused, some benefit out of it, obviously.
Mike was a command staff, and I heard we always read stories about LASD captain, commander, deputy chief, whatever, that got stopped for DUI, and then I never heard anything after that. So is it the same or what? What's the deal? How can they get away with this stuff?
I would say that the command staff that are in favor with the upper executive staff pretty much always get a pass on things. I remember this guy was, I think he was a chief. He got stopped drunk driving. He rolled his county car up onto the ivy on the 101 and flipped his car. And Chippy's got there, and he's a really tall, big guy, and he was belligerent, and he was stepping into the guy and stepped on his toes, to intimidate the Chippy. And boy, it was a big brouhaha for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it disappeared. There are a lot of instances that I've seen personally where they should have been gone through the disciplinary process. And, I was an IA for a long time, and we never interviewed any executives. We knew they were getting in trouble, but I guess it's that RHIP kind of thing. But the sad thing is everybody knows it. I think that some people at the line level might think it happens more often than it does, because not every executive goes out getting in stupid things, but they, some do. And, one or two of them get away with it. The department thinks there's 100 of them, right?
Yeah.
But it happens. I'm not a, I worked IA for a long time, and I can't say that I was really thrilled working there. But the one thing that I did when I was there was I made sure that everybody got a fair shake. I treated everybody the same, and I would hope that the department would have shuffled some of those cases down our way, but it never happened. And I never got in trouble. So.
And Ken, if I may add, look, I just want to make sure that we start off also by saying that this is a very small population of the entire department. But a couple of things. If you're a huge department like my beloved LAPD, it doesn't really stick out that much, right? As opposed to a very, very small department. The issue that people have, or I should say, the challenge is that when you do give a pass, especially to a command staff officer, in a small department, it's going to have a major impact for something that happens, like Mike just said, something that doesn't happen quite often. It has a tremendous impact, not just on the rank and file, but on everyone, the community and the whole nine. With LAPD, LASD, and other major agencies, I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't have a major impact, but it certainly does impact morale a lot. And, and the other thing too is also is if you get that DUI off duty and next thing you know, you are adjudicating a DUI of your subordinate, and then you decide to give them penalty, that's just failed leadership, man. That's awful. I mean, how could you even follow such a person and work for them? At least that's the way I see it. And I think, let's be honest here. Let's be transparent. And again, one of many reasons to have a podcast called Internal Affairs is that if you're going to preach transparency, well, you know what, man? Here you have it.
Where do these cases go? Do they just bypass IA?
Yeah. Well, in our case, I'll answer for our side. They disappear. I don't think there's even any written documentation, any memos or anything. They just handle it on the sly, and it just disappears.
I got nothing to say about that.
It's true.
They just, but everybody knows about it though.
Yeah. It just
But,
goes away.
Yeah,
Magically.
in a couple of months, it's just going to be a rumor, That's
Yeah.
not true. I didn't step on that guy's foot. I didn't flip my car over. Okay. Whatever. Yeah.
Abracadabra, baby. It just goes away.
But that's messed
Oof.
up because everybody knows about it, and what does that do to morale and all that?
Yeah.
Well, I want names. So who are the sheriffs and the chiefs that were like the worst of the cover up people?
Ken wants
And-
receipts, Mike. He
That's
wants
right.
receipts.
Well, it's I think it's under the section of NOYB. I wouldn't do that. I still know a lot of people in the department. I'm not going to start naming names.
Do you claim the fifth?
I have a fifth with me, but no, it's there. It's admin crap, and you just learn how to deal with it and you roll with it. And I was on for 36 years, and that aspect of it never changed, and it probably is exactly the same right now today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like that also in my beloved LAPD. I still get phone calls. As a matter of fact, I just entertained a situation where there was a gentleman an accused employee who just went through their voter rights hearing, and instead of getting terminated, he received some heavy suspension. However, during the trial proceedings, he discovered some misconduct on the part of the IO, and then so he's asking his attorney, hey, what do I do with this? Do I bring it up to the department? And of course, the first answer is, well, you know what? They're going to sweep it under the rug. So you might as well just go to the inspector general. And, and then I get the phone call and I said, no, you don't do that. What you do is you walk in, not asking for a voluntary interview, actually write it, memorialize it, and be very factual and just turn it in. And if they tell you to go pound sand, get a name and a serial and do a follow-up email and say, hey, thank you for meeting with me today. Pursuant to our conversation, I delivered, this employee report, this 15-7, stating that there's alleged misconduct on behalf of, of this particular person. And I hope to hear back from you and let me know who you're going to assign that case to, et cetera, et cetera. Because then when you go call the IG's office, the first thing the IG's office is going to say, well, let me call IA and see what happened, right? Well, I'd rather you take the first step and deal with the department. And if they do tell you to go pound sand or sweep it under the rug, if you will, that's fine. It's part of your process. It's part of exhausting all your remedies and move on, man. It's going to bolster and strengthen your civil suit, if any.
Mike.
yes.
Did the LASD have like LAPD has an officer representation unit that goes like what are they, like the attorneys for the accused? And then they represent them because Marlon can get into this too, but LAPD they go to a board of rights, and then the department advocates are the internal affairs guys, and then the officer representation, those are in the league. Do they provide attorneys or something for this trial?
Yeah. I'll wait till Mike answers, and then I'll rebuttal.
You're gonna rebut me?
Go rebut him.
All right. Well, there's IA, and then there's the advocacy unit, which is the department side that goes in and does the case. And on the deputy side, there's ALADS or POPA or what's the other one? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
It's okay.
Oh man, no, it's so Alex Villanueva instituted it. LASPA, LASPA, LA Sheriff, LA Deputy Sheriff. Yeah. So they have attorneys that go in and represent them.
Yeah. So just so we're clear and for the record, I used to work officer representation section myself. I actually did 2 tours. I loved defending cops so much that I had to go back. only because after working internal affairs, I started realizing that, you know what, we just do it to ourselves, man. We're not that good. We think we're good, and you think you're doing the right thing, but in reality, there always seems to be, a crack, here and there, and you're missing something, and unfortunately, it's because it's a big machine. I mean, we're talking in an excess of 3,000 complaints from the public a year back when I used to work it in 2011, 2015. But just to give a little history about Officer Rep Section, back in your days, Ken, LAPD, as you may know, before the Rampart scandal, there used to be reps, right, sergeants and police officers who used to go to these border rights hearings, go toe to toe with the advocate from internal affairs, which is another sergeant. And so, and you have this border rights hearing with 3 panel member, 2 command staff officers, and 1 civilian. And here you are, you're being judged by your peers. You're being represented by your peers. Until the Rampart scandal went down in 1997, 98, when Chief Parks, I think it was 1997, when Chief Parks became chief of police, he pretty much, his first special order was, you know what, we are taking every single complaint. I don't care what that alleged misconduct is. I don't care if the lady walks in the front desk and says my ovaries have been stolen. We're going to take that complaint, which is, by the way, actually true case. And I'm sure you know that, Ken.
It happened.
It happened. It actually happened. Well,
You mean her ovaries were stolen? Really?
They were stolen right from her body. It was tragic.
Oh man, that is.
I haven't met the officer who actually cut the face sheet, but there was a face sheet generated because of that actual allegation. However, it was like 2001 when the consent decree went down, and that's when I believe Chief Bratton pretty much decided that, you know what, this peer-to-peer stuff, ORS, with advocates and IA going toe-to-toe, representing your own peers, it's got to go. So then we bought into a legal plan, and that's when I suppose we got very professional. And I don't know, I guess you can say we got D1 All-American product, and we hired a whole bunch of attorneys to represent us in border rights.
When Mike and I were baby cops, somebody would come in the station and go, I want to make a complaint against an officer. And the sergeant would go, get out of my station.
Yeah.
And then when
Yes.
Billy Parks was chief, everything was a complaint.
Yes.
Everybody who wanted to take a complaint got a complaint.
Yep.
I don't think the sheriffs was like that. I just don't get the sense that the sheriffs were.
No. Well, we actually created a Watch Commander Service comment report specifically for that, because they did go to that. If somebody comes in and complains that Marlon stole her ovaries, that's going to be on a service comment report. It's not a crime report, right? It's just a citizen complaint, basically.
I should make a T-shirt out of that.
Yeah, give the ovaries. Save the ovaries, man.
My ovaries got stolen.
Oh, man. Yes.
You're absolutely right. Parks, special order number 1, everything is actually a complaint. You're cutting paper no matter what. And you know what sucks is that even in those early 90s and the mid 90s, even if you actually had a legitimate, like, serious complaint of an officer just treating you like shit, or someone did something, you walk in the front desk, yeah, you're right. Go pound sand. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah. I didn't like
Well,
Parks.
remember how that went with the Rodney King whipping that he got when the Zapruder film? He tried to take it to the station and turn it in as a Good Samaritan. And they said, "Fuck off, get out of here. We don't need that crap." So his next stop was Channel 5 News, I think. Yeah, good call, pal. Yeah.
I remember when Parks became chief, I was working backgrounds, and he immediately, we had casual Fridays. He immediately took that away and made us wear shirt and ties on Friday. Nobody liked him. Nobody. And he hated the department.
Yeah. And you know what? And I suppose, there was some really challenging times for him, man. He walked into a friggin' storm, dude. I mean, the Rampart scandal just happened, and you know what? Oh shit! My understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but I think when it all went down, there was like 70 plus border rights ordered.
Oh, probably
because of Mario Munoz was one of my guests who actually worked internal affairs reckoning evaluations R&E, and he told us that as a result of the Rampart scandal, they had to settle over 500 cases back in 2002. Yeah. Think about that, 500 plus cases, and he was getting some heat for it. Meaning. Yeah, Perez said this, and that. And, well, this is a bunch of bullshit, man. Look, if we're going to call it a scandal, let's just make sure that what we're talking about is Nino Durden and Rafael Perez, which is what it comes down to, really. And, of course, the news and the media made it out to be, this huge propaganda that the department was, hiding and doing stuff. So,
yeah. Hey, look who's here. Durgan Baru. Apparently he knows you.
He knows me, and I don't know the last name. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, hey, E. Good to see you, brother.
Thanks.
One thing that comes to mind. Oh, there we go. My Bull 51. Right on. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Clever name. I would have never known that was him. So, back in, I can't remember the year that Christopher Dorner came out.
Yes.
One of my buddies who worked at backgrounds with him, he called me and he said, Ken, Metro's here. They're here to protect my house because I was working IA and my name was on the manifesto. So rather than Dorner had already killed the IA. That was his attorney, Randy Kwan.
That was Randy Kwan's daughter. That's correct. And the boyfriend.
So that was out of IA. My buddy who worked IA, his name was on the manifesto for Christopher Dorner.
Yeah, Dorner.
So I never thought IA could be deadly.
Yes. And I suppose, I was there when I was an advocate doing border rights when the Dorner incident went down. And I can tell you that my partner, who was my FTO, who taught me how to do boards, she was the actual advocate who put on that border rights, Dorners, that is. And she was under protection in the whole nine. What I do remember and what I can tell you, and this is obviously for me, it'd be like third, fourth party information, but the day that the decision went down to remove him and found him guilty on a false statement, that dude just fucking went crazy. I mean, he didn't go 415. He went like 416, bro. I mean, just went off, started throwing chairs, threatening Randy. And it was so bad that uniform that were up in the 5th floor at the Bradbury building had to escort him out. And then he goes to Southwest Division, and the captain grabs like 2 of his big old like linebacker, type of cops, sergeants, and escorted him to his locker to get him out. Now, the story that I want to tell that hasn't been told yet, because there has been a lot of documentaries, is about that false statement and what happened in that border rights. And I'm hoping in the near future I can get that story. However, the members of the board, including the advocate, they're not available. So,
Mike, did you ever get threatened?
Probably no. At not really at IAB, but I worked a little thing called Operation Big Spender, or Arco Narco, back in the day, that was investigating actually LAPD people, our people, and LAPD narcotics deputies who were stealing money and planting evidence. And we had a fake business put up called was it B&B Enterprises up in the Arco Tower, and we were told several times that they were looking for us and they were gonna kill us when they saw us. And we even had FBI agents with us, and they always, when the door would open, they'd all jump behind us because they knew that at least we were trained street cops and we know who to kill and who not to kill. But at IAB, I mean, there was a lot of grumbling and everything, but I, you know what? My thing was I was never going to apologize for doing my job. And sometimes it sucked, but sometimes you actually saved some people who were otherwise on their way out the door. I remember a couple of cases where they were like, "Oh, these guys are fired. They're going to get filed on. They're going to the pen." And I'm like, "Well, okay, what about the facts? Can we use those?" So there were some cases that were good, but I'm sorry, I didn't enjoy my time at IA. I felt like a pariah the second I walked in the door.
Oh my! What's this about? Sheriff's NORSAT teams did some surveillance on those two with SIS. What is that about?
The North Regional Surveillance and Apprehension Team that Dale was on. Sounds like they hooked up with your SIS team.
Yeah.
And did their sneaky shit, following people around.
So was NORSAT the SIS of LASD?
Yeah, pretty much.
Those guys. I had a SIS thing one time. I was working patrol when can't remember his name. A motor officer got killed in the 80s, and we were out hunting from
Paul Verna.
Yeah, Paul Verna. Yeah. He got killed, and then they were hunting for these guys, Kenneth Gay and these other people, for a long time. And then there was a backup that was called because they thought they had stopped the car. It was at nighttime. We get there with a bunch of other units. We surround the car. I didn't get up to the car. I don't know who was at the car. They go, "It's not them." And there was a helicopter overhead. And they, all of a sudden, the helicopter just left. And everybody left. And nobody's told us anything. And then we found out later it was SIS. And because there was no initiating unit. It was just that the unit requested a backup. There was no unit number. And so we got there, and it's not them. They were gone.
Yep.
I was going to add to Mike's point about working the assignment. It's not a very enjoyable atmosphere. I really struggled being an advocate. And I remember my lieutenant saying, "Hey, Marlon, don't think of this as a prosecutorial role. Just put on the hearing and let it be." And you know what? I call bullshit. I'm prosecuting cops. That's what I'm doing. And it wasn't. It didn't fit my personality. I'm way too much outgoing. I love to laugh, smile, and really enjoy. And I got to tell you, man, that 5th floor in the Bradbury building, that's just it's gloomy, bro. It's very dark and it doesn't feel well, especially when you know that someone's going to lose their job and practically lose everything. But one of the questions that we have for our students in our class in Savage Training Group, in our IA class, is what, to Mike's point, we asked the class, "Hey, do you think this job is to protect cops?" And you'd be surprised. Some people actually raise their hands and they say yes. Even I would have thought that, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm going into this to protect cops. But the problem with saying yes is, okay, well, congratulations. Your next case is that child molester or that that child pornography type of cop that you got going on. So you got to be careful when you are trying to label whether it's to protect cops and not to protect cops. But what I will say is that you do protect cops by turning every single stone, by knowing pole bar, like you're a subject matter expert. You got to know Peace Officers' Bill of Rights, and you got to protect the system in the process, man. And the minute that it becomes self-serving, or you start doing shit on your own, or having that pre-notion like, "Oh yeah, you know what, Mike? I know he did it." Or Marlon, "Oh, for sure." Or there's no fucking way that Marlon or Mike would do something like that at a traffic stop. And so when you start having those expectations, if you will, that's when it kind of becomes a little of a challenge for you to do this job. So,
you know what? I learned early on that until I had every factoid that I could get. And until I knew every detail of what occurred, I kept my mouth shut.
Yep.
Because a lot of times you'd have executives call you, this guy did this and they need to go. And, it's all this horrendous stuff. There's bullets flying, there's cars crashing, there's people screaming, and initially when you look at it, it's like, oh my God, these guys are going to federal prison. And when it's over and you know all the facts, hey, these guys deserve a Distinguished Service Award. So, I learned, and I tell people even today, man, do not prejudge, good, bad, or indifferent. Just wait until all the facts are in, and then the chips fall where they will after that.
Absolutely. And you know what I've learned early and what we teach also is the intake phase. So when you're at the intake phase and you're doing an intake, right, you get called a supervisor request. You want to be that supervisor that's gathering as much evidence as possible. But for the average officer that has no clue about the process, they're probably thinking, oh, shit, this sergeant's just fucking out there, like, trying to put a case on me because he's interviewing that person, or he's, gathering evidence or surveillance video from here and just doing all this stuff. But what they're really trying to do is, bro, we're trying to exonerate you, because at the end of the day, we can all agree a lot of these public complaints are unfounded, which means that it didn't occur. It turns out to be bullshit. Sometimes it's just a big misunderstanding. Feelings get hurt. Emotions are just flying high. And, who knows, man? There's other ways of solving it. There's got to be other ways to resolving some conflict. And the shittiest part is, and this is the part that I don't like, is we send a letter out. I don't know what the LASD does, but we mail a letter to the complainant saying, hey, thanks for getting a hold of us. It's unfounded. So let's go with that. Let's just say it's unfounded. In other words, we're just pretty much saying in a very professional way that you're full of shit, and whatever you saw or heard, it's not true. And in the bottom it says, if you have any questions, please give us a call and we'll talk about it. You know how many letters I've sent out in 5 years, Ken? How many do you think I actually got back or even heard back from?
I'm going to go with 2.
Right. 1. I actually had one USC student that was going to law school that said, I want to talk to you about, the complaint that I made, So my point is that if we're all going to complain and how corrupt and how we take care of our own, and we're this thin blue line family, come on, man, you're in it as you have as much a stake as the officer does. And if you really, truly 100% care about how the cop really treated you, then let's break bread, man. Let's talk about it.
I was talking to Marlon, Mike, a few months ago, and I was telling him that I never got a phone call from anybody going, dude, I got accepted to IA. I'm so excited. And I'm like, nobody ever said that, or you never heard of anybody that went to IA. So why did you guys go to IA, man?
I know.
Hey, first, before I answer that, let me just say one thing about what Marlon said. I was actually an advocate of body-worn cameras coming out. I remember the troop initial reaction was, oh my God, they're going to screw us over. Man, I can't tell you how many times those cameras on those chests have exonerated people and, showed the folks that were doing the complaints for the liars that they were. So that was a good dealio. I don't know if we have time to go over why I ended up in IAB. It was a journey.
Were you forced to go, or did you?
Okay. I was a sergeant at Lennox, and I was having a wonderful time. I had put in for the Safe Streets Bureau, which is the station gang teams, and I got all the way through, and I was accepted to 3 of the stations. And my chief at the time, Leroy D. Baca, wouldn't let me go because I hadn't done 2 years there. And I was like, son of a... Anyway, 2 weeks later, this big thing happened where, I was talking about the Arco-Narco thing, where 50 people were accused of stealing drug money, millions of dollars worth of stuff, and all this other crap going on. Well, gee, guess what one I got to go to was that. My plan had been to go to... the Safe Streets Bureau, then OSS, and end up at homicide, which is where I wanted to go. So instead of homicide, I'm told that I'm going to this task force, and they said 6 to 8 weeks, keep your locker, no big deal, you'll be right back. A year and a half later, I'm crying in the office like I can't be here anymore. So they had an opening come up for the deputy involved shooting and deputy involved force rollout teams, which were going to start up. The sheriff didn't have them up to that point. And the idea was significant force or a hit shooting, you got to roll out in a county car in the middle of the night and go to where all the poop's happening. So I went there for that, and unfortunately, it was only part of the job. People might think there's a lot of deputy involved shootings, but there aren't. They're at 30 something a year. And you split that up between 6 people. There weren't a lot, so I ended up getting all these IA cases, and that's how I ended up there. And because of that, I never got to homicide. My career took a completely different path. I went from IA to ding dong to wing wang, and never got anywhere near homicide. So that's my tale of woe.
So you didn't want to go.
No, because they told me 6 to 8 weeks, and next thing I knew, a couple of my best friends ended up going to federal prison behind that stupid case. Guys were stealing millions and millions of dollars, and they were, transporting dope here and there, and stuff went missing, and it was horrific. When I got we went to the secret location when I got put on this task force, and they passed around a piece of paper, something like this here, and they said you can look at the names on it, but don't write them down. Don't repeat them to anybody. But here's the people that are being looked at. And I looked at it, and I knew virtually every frickin' one of them. I had worked Firestone Station and Lennox Station. I knew a lot of the guys that I consider to be butt-kicking cops. And their names were on this list. And I'm going, this is bullshit. I'll be out of here in a week. Well, a year and a half later, every one of them had gone down. Every stinking one of them in federal court. So, I was battered and beaten, and there was no way out. It had turned into the IRS was there, and they were doing financials on everybody. He's got 200 more bucks than he was supposed to have here. Let's seize his car. And that's not why I joined. So I went in and begged. I think I told them I had gone crazy and I need to get out. So what do? They put me at IAB. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
And I was there probably 5.5 years before I finally got out of there. But yeah, it was.
That case was was in the 80s. Those dope. That was a task force and the dope cops from LAPD and LASD and all those.
Yeah,
agencies?
yeah. Southwest Crew, Majors 1, 2, 3, and 4. That was 89, August of 89. It went down, and I was still in there in October of 91 or 2 or whatever, and I was just like, please let me out. And they did. They knew it was. I did a hell of a job for them there, but I didn't like seeing all those. They weren't just getting fired. These people were going to the federal pen, and some of them, their relatives were going. Their wives were going to prison. And I think one guy's dog ended up in the Hooskow. And I'm just like, I want nothing else to do with this. And so what do? Well, here you're going to go. They're not going to go to prison, but you might get them fired. Okay. Well, that's a plus, I guess. That's a step up. So.
Well, you know what? Their ovaries weren't stolen, so good thing.
Yeah, I could tell another story, but it's kind of X-rated about where this lady said somebody stole $100 from him and where it allegedly was being held. But I'm not. That's for a different time with a different bar.
You're gonna tease us and not tell us a story.
No. It's his mom's on tonight. I can't talk like that.
I was in officer rep section, and I was there for a year. I believe I did a couple of admin appeals, and man, it felt so. We won all the ones that I did at that time. My first tour, they ruled in favor of the defense, and so I was in law school. It was my first year, and there was a Sergeant 2 opening. As you know, in LAPD, we have a Sergeant 1 spot, and then you get your rocker, which is a Sergeant 2. So it's kind of like a promo. It's an upgrade advancement. Hey, it's 5.5%. It's kind of like a promo, if you will. And so the lieutenant that was running the advocate section in internal affairs told me, hey man, there's going to be 2 spots, only 2 upgraded spots, and 60 applicants, about 60 wanted to go to internal affairs. I don't know why. I can't speak for all the other 59, but he pretty much told me, he said, hey, Marlon, you did this admin appeal, you're respectful, professional. I know you'll do great up here. I would love to have you here. I'll make sure that if you pretty much get selected, then I'll bring you straight up here to the advocate section. And so I applied, and I did. My biggest fear was telling my colleagues, like Cliff Armis. Cliff taught me so much, and others. Believe it or not, Cliff was like, I called Gary Ingemanson and said, hey, you know what? This is what I'm thinking about doing. Gary Ingemanson said, Marlon, you know what? That's a great decision because you're going to get some moot court trial advocacy experience, which is not what a lot of, law students or a lot of cops get. And my last notification was Cliff, and I really thought he was just going to go off on me. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to the dark side, blah, blah, blah. And believe it or not, Cliff and I went to go have a beer, and he said, hey, man, congratulations. I think it'll be good for you. And total opposite. I got his blessing. And boy, man, I went in there, guns running. Loaded. And I started realizing that it's not that it's difficult to put on the case, right, before the board members. It's the quality, bro. That's what killed me the most is, a lot of amateurs, man. Stop being pretenders and do your job. Meaning, if you're going to investigate, fucking hey, man, be a good one. And the decision making, as it goes all the way up the chain and all the levels of review, that was my other problem that I had with my job as an advocate. But it certainly wasn't something that I was just kind of like, I was a nervous wreck, bro, but I got a lot of experience. I tease my brother a lot too, because my brother's been an attorney for like 10 years. Well, now he's probably an attorney like 15 plus. And, I tease him and say, hey, bro, I've done more trials than you have. Oh, bullshit. Those are just like little bullshit trials, because he settles a lot of cases. So you'd be surprised. There's a lot of attorneys won't even see a day in court, whatever that setting is, whether it's criminal, civil, or even an administrative, atmosphere. So, I got a lot of experience. And so now, since I've been retired for 2 years, it's time to share, man. It's time to give back. And this is my way of doing it by having these conversations with, OGs like Kyle Jackson. I had Rick Wall, Sergio Diaz, just some really, really good stories to get to know them, but at the same time, talk about a topic that's just not talked about enough, in my opinion.
Well, when you guys left IA, do you think there were whispers? We're going, hey, watch that guy right there. He just came from IA.
Yeah.
Mike's all quiet.
Well, I had an assistant sheriff who turned into an undersheriff chase me around for 10 years because I worked there.
What do you mean?
He would follow me to assignments that I went to and try to get me booted out of them.
What?
We would tell people that I was a headhunter, not to trust me, and not let me look at cases. And the flip side of that was everywhere I went after internal affairs. I went to a lot of different stations and jail assignments. Every place I went, they knew I'd worked IAB. Hey, we've got these 50 backlog IA cases. Can you do them for us, please? And I'm like, why not? But at the same time, see, it was a blessing and a curse because I knew what I was doing. And I could blow through those things as quick as, poop through a goose, I suppose. But I also had this a high up executive chase me around and treat me like crap. And the best thing I can say about that is he went to federal prison and I didn't. Ha ha ha
Oh
ha
my
ha.
goodness. Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. That.
I know. Who you're talking
Yep. Yep. I lost 10 years of my career behind that dude.
Any retaliation on your part for being officer rep and IA?
You know what? When I left IA, I did my second tour in ORS. I was golden, bro, because here's the deal. When people call ORS and they tell you, SARS, man, I got this I got this 128, I got this complaint, and it's bullshit. The department's out to get me, and they're all fucking disgruntled. And I'm like, okay, cool, dude. You know what? And they tell me a little bit about what happened. And then next thing you know, I say, hey, bro, send me the face sheet. Send me the entire complaint. Send me the face sheet, the investigation, the addenda. Send me the audio. Send it all, and I'll read it, and we'll get back to you, right? And I'll give you both my professional and personal opinion. But here's the deal, bro. Even your best friend won't always tell you everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you only hear what you want to hear. And that was a struggle with being a defense rep. Because I call him back and say, bro, dude, what the fuck, dude? You didn't tell me about these 2 or 3 paragraphs that they investigated where, the shit's sustained, dude. And so for me, I had some, I guess you can say some street cred, if you will, where I'll say like, look, dude, I just came from IA. I'm here to tell you right now, dude, even if you're right a Skelly, first of all, I'm an admin appeal guy. We can do hearings all day. I love to argue. I mean, I went to law school for a reason, right? Let's chop it up and let's argue in a very professional way, in a professional setting. With that being said, if that's not the case, we can write a Skelly, but I'm going to tell you right now, we just don't have any affirmative defenses. I don't know what to say when you are like the 5th unit in a pursuit and you're on body worn video saying, oh, hey, man, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5. Okay, go. Yeah. And then you're all butthurt and pissed off because they jammed you up about it. So it wasn't retaliation for me. Lucky me, and you know what? This is where I get to kind of flex a little bit more of my character, my personality. If you knew Marlon, then you're going to get something fair and reasonable. And I have no dog in the fight, man. I have no axe to grind. It was never self-serving for me. And you know what? I thank Kyle Jackson for that, because Kyle Jackson was my commander even before I started the world of discipline. So I made sergeant in 2007. I met the commander in 2008. And the best advice I ever got was, Marlon, whatever you do in this department, don't ever make it about yourself. Put your politics and egos on the side. It's never about you. And you know what, Ken, that stuck to me ever since I was a sergeant from 07 is when I got promoted. But since 08 until I retired until 2022, it's worked for me. And you know what? It was never about me, even when it came to cases. And unfortunately, it's just it's a very self-serving way, man, in this type of business.
I feel bad for Mike because it looked like
What'd I do now?
Well, I feel bad because you left there and you got dogged for being in there.
Yeah, I got. But you know what? People knew that if you were accused of something administratively and you didn't do it, I'm the first person you wanted to see walk in the door because I'll prove it. But if you're charged with something administratively and you did do it, I'm the last person you want to see walk in the door because I'll prove that. And everybody knew. I mean, it was just, to me, it's cut and dry. It's down the middle. They did it or they didn't. A lot of times the execs try to make things more than what they are, to send a message or whatever. There was a period of time where, I heard it firsthand. They would fire people that were like on the fence and make them fight for their job back just to send a message to everybody else.
Yeah.
Who wants to be part of that? Because then it makes you look like the dick, not the person that's making you do it.
Exactly. Yeah, and in addition to what Mike's saying is that I honestly don't think that command staff, well, whoever they are today, really understand the impact they have on their decision making. And it goes both ways, bro. Look, if we can all agree that it's sustained, okay, we're good. That's fine. That means it occurred. I'm okay with that. But you know what? Let's talk about penalty, man. And that's the challenge, man. And what happens is that you can get a penalty in Devonshire Division completely different than a penalty in Southeast Division. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it goes. That's just the culture, and it sucks. It shouldn't be that way.
Mm-hmm. But here's a good comment. I told Ken I got a sustained complaint for profanity. Those are stupid complaints. But was that an IA thing? Does that go all the way to IA, or is that divisional?
Well, it's in LAPD. Any alleged misconduct is you got to push the send button on Teams, so it's a CF number. Now, in terms of who's going to handle it and who's going to investigate it, yeah, you're right. It goes to the division.
Were sheriffs were they that petty as LAPD, Mike?
Oh yeah, sure. Probably more so in some places. Yeah, they are. They can be petty, and especially like I said, if you're not with the in crowd, if you're not somebody that like your own brass likes, look out.
Yep.
There's stuff going on even today where guys aren't part of the in crowd with the brass. Next thing you know, they're getting a lot of heat thrown at them that other people would not even get. It happens. It's unfair.
Yeah, we're definitely over the top, and we're fucking archaic, bro. I teach again for Savage Training Group, the Internal Affairs course, and a lot of our courses are up north in Northern California, bro. They're spot on, man. They have what they call an inquiry report. What that means is that you get to come in and just like make these very minor type of alleged misconduct, and they'll note it and they'll talk to you. It's kind of like an ACR, that we go through, a complaint resolution. But you know what? They don't go through a full-blown internal affairs. Why can't, I wish I was chief for a day and I would make 128.01 and I would amend our complaint process and have an inquiry where if it's minor of nature, just don't go through Teams and push the send button to create a CF number. And by the way, someone's going to say, well, Marlon, you know what? We have demonstrably false adjudication. Fine. I think that's great. We're heading in the right direction, and I'm glad we made that decision. However, even with a demonstrably false adjudication, bro, it still takes like 30 to like 90 days for you to get skellied and say, hey, whatever complaint Mr. Johnson was making, which is a bunch of bullshit, sign right here, have a nice day. But bro, that's like 90 days, even sometimes 120 days. And dude, we can't be waiting that long can you imagine just being a young little 2-year police officer right now in LAPD, and you get this complaint and you're driving to work every single day doing God's work, trying to do good, but you have this fucking complaint hanging over your head, man. We got to do better. And we're just, anyways.
I long for the days back in the 1850s when I joined, where you would have a complaint, or you'd have a significant use of force or an accidental discharge, and the watch commander or the watch sergeant will pull out a little red book, and they'd write it in there. On this day, they fucked some guy up pretty good. He went to LCMC, and that was it. But it's just like a pop spot. Some people abuse it. Next thing you know, they're not giving you free donuts anymore. So now it's just, that's why we got the service comment report, that WSCR. It's the same thing Marlon's talking about, where it's not quite enough to be an admin investigation. So it'll be a unit level inquiry, supervisory inquiry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
I love the inquiries, man.
It's off the hook nowadays. We just talked about it last week, where you pull your gun out of the holster and it's like, oh my God, you got to tell people now. It's a use of, I was thinking of using force case, and it's like, were you thinking of using force when you pulled it out? It's like, well, I wasn't picking my teeth with it, but back, I trained at Firestone, and when you got out of the car at 3:00 in the morning and there's a carload of gangsters there, you don't wait for that opportune moment. You have the gun out, at least by your side, or if you're the passenger, you might have it kind of lazily drifting in the direction of the car. Mm-hmm. Every one of those is going to be reportable. And people say, well, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, it is, because then it goes into your employee performance index. And people will pull that up and they're going to see, man, Borman's got 50 of those a night. We've got to put him in the women's jail now so he stops getting these things. So it's just the sheriff's department is in a downward slide as far as I'm concerned, and I blame the people at the top. And I'll say it again: they're not leaders; they are trying to manage, and they're doing a horrible job of it. And thankfully, in 26, I think we're going to boot them out and start straightening that place out.
There you
So
go.
there.
I don't know about the sheriffs. Maybe you can answer this too, Mike. I know a really good cop who left the department. Then after a couple of years tried to come back. They would not restore his status because he had an unfounded complaint for misconduct. And I worked backgrounds and I never had that happen, but I can see that you can't have anything open.
Oh,
It
yeah.
has to be adjudicated in order for the background investigation to be completed.
Well, it says it was unfounded. That tells me that it wasn't true.
Correct.
So
it didn't
you
occur.
know, yeah, or I guess exonerated didn't occur at all. Like they weren't even working that day. You know,
Yeah.
Dale Hedges mentioned something about the FPK 4. It's actually Firestone 5. He'll come on next week. I think we ought to talk about that because that is where people lost their jobs to make a point over something that didn't occur.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's so tune in next week, folks, because
We're there.
Dale's going to be here and he's going to hawk his book, Damage Control, and we'll get him to talk about the Firestone 5 caper. It was, I mean, the things that happened to this poor guy through his career, and this is just that's not even the big one. The big one is the other one we've talked about before, the investigation he did behind the guy that was pretending to be a deputy sheriff. So that's just
impersonating, according to your that person on your IG, man. He's like, yeah, it's not a big deal. Okay, impersonating yourself to go take exams and take your college courses.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
That's just it's no big. Well, according to this person, whoever that was, he said it's not a big deal.
It's kind of like that theft of county funds, right? Or city funds, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken, you'll appreciate this. I had a guest come on who took off from LAPD and went to another state to become a cop. Bro, the department had an open IA complaint, but guess what, dude? The department didn't know that he already left.
They did not know?
And the only way he found... I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up, man. And the only way he found out is because his background investigator from the other department from out of state had to call about his prior IA. So when he talked to the investigator in internal affairs, he's like, wait a minute, hold on a second. He has an open complaint. He's like, dude, he's been gone for like a couple of months. Where you guys been?
God.
Oh, yeah. Where's that case going?
So let me ask you guys something. Did you ever work a case where you said, this is BS? This is they're targeting the officer. And did you ever have names that just kept coming back through the system, complaint after complaint?
Not a lot. I mean, I had a couple come through, but I did work cases that I thought were bullshit from the beginning, and it got worse going into it. Just real quickly, there was one where these two guys were in trouble for allegedly capping rounds and all this other bullshit. We were told early on, these guys are going to get filed on. Both of them are felonies, are going to prison. A year later, these guys are sitting at home for a year. That same investigator goes, well, they're not going to get filed on, but they sure are going to get fired now. Another year goes by. These guys are sitting at home for 2 frickin' years inside, not getting any sun. They look like poor little, really white boys. They're getting pudgy. They're hating life. They're having trouble at home and everything. And that guy, the initial investigator promoted, I got the case. And within about 3 months, they were both unfounded and put back to work. I had the pleasure of going to the guys' houses and give them a letter, and the one of them, he opens the door, like red eyes, coal eyes, and he's all slouched over and white as a sheet. Am I getting fired? No, motherfucker, you're going back to work starting tomorrow. Here's your paperwork. And it was like after over 2 years of sitting at home being told they were going to get fired. So yeah, I had a couple of those cases, and those are the ones that bring you back. It's like a good shot in golf, right? Makes you come back again. But there were some of them that they drove me to distraction. I hated them. I didn't want to work them. I knew the guys were going down. It made me sick to my stomach. But like I said, I mean, you did it, you do the time. If you didn't, you don't.
Yeah, I would say that out of the 30 board rights that I've done, 5 of those false statements were found guilty and terminated. Those, you know what, I didn't have any pleasure of doing that because, and again, I put it on, right? I bring you the menu, and I bring you the items that you order, and then of course you eat it and you live with that. The board members do. Mm-hmm. So, but I've always wondered and questioned myself about the other 25, and that's what I always preach, and that has to do with just really poor quality, and that's to me, yeah, I didn't like putting them on because I knew deep down inside it's like, we don't have. I mean, look, preponderance is 51%, more likely than not. Some cases I got were like 45-ish. Like we're pushing for 50. And that's just not right to do. And of course, I'm just a sergeant, man. I can't, I'm just a little old sergeant. I can't walk in and tell a deputy chief and a commander to, hey, you know what? Why don't we like reframe the allegations and, you know what? I don't know, settle and give them something. Yeah, I don't know. Give them an OR, give them a paper penalty for whatever. Whatever you guys decide to do, it's great. But guess what? It doesn't belong at this stage. This is like serious shit. And let's treat it as such. Like, it's got to be like some, falsifying logs or, getting into a DUI and telling the outside agency that you had 2 shots of vodka, 3 ounces at home and, and just and then blowing 22s after you got into a car accident and, the 2 other parties, they were hospitalized. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of shit that you want. That's the product you want. So for me, that was just the quality, and I hold the department accountable for having investigating officers work in IA that just, I suppose you were lazy or you just didn't want to be there. And there's sometimes you just go, oh shit, this is a cool job. I get off by 4 p.m. I get weekends off. And I'm just going to do the bare minimum and not turn every single stone. And I got a problem with that because if you're going to do this type of work, man, you know what? Take care of your fucking cops. Take care of the process. And make it just, but they don't.
The reason I was asking is because I don't know if they had it when you were there, Mike, but nowadays they have these people and we know at least one mutual friend who has been the victim of this, where there are these what do they call it, First Amendment auditors and these groups that their lives, their sole purpose in living is to complain about the same cops over and over again. And I think at some point IA kind of goes, oh, here's another one, and LA Cycle says, can we talk about false allegations being adjudicated as demonstrably false, resulting in civil suit against the complainant?
I try to send a message, and for whatever reason, you're not allowing me. It says you failed to post. I just put up a comment.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know why.
Answer it then.
I did. And it says this comment has failed to post to the Police Applicant podcast. This comment has failed to post to 1019, the Watch Commander. I'll do it again. That's my classmate. I told him to call me and we can talk about that offline.
Hey, let me jump in about, you want to talk about quality of cases. After I retired from the department, I went and worked for Ray Leva over at probation for a year. Mm-hmm. Ray was a good guy. Rest in peace, brother. But he had me looking at all the IA cases from probation, and that was the biggest quagmire of crap I have ever seen in my life. Yes, I'm talking about you guys that are working probation, IA. One of the cases, they had this edict where they were firing people. This one, they said, he swung at this kid that tried to hit him, and, if he'd have connected, that kid would have been killed. He's this big, strong, powerlifting guy, and he was already fired. And I went back and I looked at the case, and they said this kid walked up to the probation officer and without warning takes a swing at him. And they say the kid didn't hit him, but it got close, and he turned around and he did one of these Mike Tyson, if it had hit him, the kid would have been dead 2 weeks prior to being hit, right? But they fired him for that. And I went back and I looked at the case, and I took it home, and I watched this video because they have video everywhere, and I'm watching it, I'm watching it, I'm watching it. And all of a sudden I see when this kid takes a swing, there's this item goes flying off the guy's head. It's his hat. The kid hit him because the guy said it dazed him and he almost passed out. He had his baseball hat on backwards, so there's no brim to hit. He hit it on his head and hit it so hard, it spun like a little spaceship all the way across the room. And I go, he hit him. The guy hit him. He shouldn't be fired. Oh, he's already in the process. Let him work his way through it. That was their attitude.
Wow.
They would put down their attitudes, their conjecture, their opinions, their prejudices in actual written documents that they file for IA. Wow. And nobody said a word about them. And I was appalled, man. I know there were 6 discharge cases, and 5 of them weren't fireable, let alone disciplinable. It's like you've got a female probation officer in some youth camp. These kids that are like 16, 17, 18 years old that would cut off your head and eat Cheerios out of your skull. In the middle of the night, they're doing bed checks, and these kids jump up and rat pack them. And when they defend themselves, they screw them over. I mean, it was incredible. The malfeasance was off the hook. And, Ray got sick and he left that job, and they asked me if I'd stick around. I was like, I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity with you guys, but I wasn't going to have any part in that.
Man,
that's
Mike
it.
Mike
I'm done with my rant.
Yarn. You got away with words. You got to have him on your podcast.
Me Hardy. He might not like the yarns I spin. It's, but it's just, it comes from experience over the years of putting up with all this bullshit. I mean, I took pride in the work I did. I didn't like the work I did, but I took pride in the fact that I always tried to get it right. And I didn't purposely screw people over, and I didn't like seeing people get screwed over. But that probation fiasco, I guarantee you it's going on the same way today. In fact, it's probably worse, right? We've been talking about that that knucklehead from the sheriff's department, that lieutenant that's over there right now, overseeing all the security stuff, screwing up right and left. And no one is over there watching the nutcases that are working. Now, maybe it's because they're not trained properly, but I tried, and they fought me tooth and nail all the way up the chain of command. They did not want to change their process. Shame on them.
There is, I actually got hit up to be retained as an expert witness for a probation department case. I'm not going to mention which one because it's kind of still, I might still get hired for it. And apparently a sergeant was cuffed, arrested at work, and was told that that pole bar didn't apply. No, I'm sorry. That pole bar did apply, and he's been administratively investigated. But yet he's cuffed.
You're talking about the probation one where they kidnapped him, put him in a room, handcuffed, and then let him go? Is that the one?
And by the way, this was actually a probation officer arrested.
Because there was a DSO too who had the same thing happen to him. They handcuff him and they drag him in this room, and it's like, am I free to go? No, you're being administratively investigated.
Okay, so
it's like, well,
so that proves my point. Apparently, that's a practice that's kind of common within the probation department. And by the way, this sergeant is a 28-year veteran that got arrested by a 5-year probationary officer. Oh yeah, dude.
Well, was this recent, Marlon?
Yes.
Okay, this is probably under the auspices of that same knucklehead lieutenant from LA County Sheriff's Department I'm talking about. He's the one that's making the calls on all this. He had like some security guard, arrest this DSO basically. And the DSO actually called the local police, and goes, "Hey, I'm being held against my will." And they came out and they said, "You're holding him against his will. You got to let him go." And it's like, that guy's still there, and he's still, he's still screwing up the system even worse. There's some idiots out there. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, this is an easy write-up, man. So he wants me to write up an expert opinion about pole bar. I'm like, okay, well, pole bar is like, it's supposed to apply, but hold on a second, he got arrested.
Well, but did he? Right? Did they really arrest him? Or
no? Well, that's just it. I think, and again, one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. They decided to detain him, and place handcuffs on him
administratively.
Yeah, exactly. So how are you going to argue that they're saying that pole bar, this is an administrative investigation, but at the same time, you're detaining me and using handcuffs as a way to, go against my free will? It's just, it's going to be a weird write-up, but again, they just don't know what they're doing, and, whatever. So yeah, it happens. That's the business we're in.
Well, if you guys want to see Mike on the Internal Affairs podcast, let us know in the comments, because I got the first vote in that because you spin a yarn. You spin a yarn, brother.
Well, I just have to make sure I don't use a lot of names and stuff, because I don't want people coming after me in my retirement.
No, well, you know what, Mike, I've had about a handful out of 62 plus guests that are active. I actually had a lieutenant who's active who got terminated. This guy went through the whole 9 yards. He was terminated when he had 2 years on an off-duty incident, and it took about almost 2 years in his arbitration hearing, only to hear the judge, the hearing officer, he was an ex-judge, after 1 hour of both parties arguing, call recess and drag both attorneys into the side, and he can hear, he's from an ear distance. And the first thing the arbitrator said is, "Why are we even here? Why are we doing this?" And so he ended up getting his job back, and 20 years later, he just he saw my podcast, saw me on social media, and decided to get a hold of me, and he came in and told the story. No departments, no names, but man, what?
Well, but
story,
his department let him go on.
Yes. So what I said was, what I told him, I said, "Hey, just make sure you clear it with the chief. It's a small department." I said, "Clear it with the chief. Make sure you get the green light." And he goes, "You know what, Marlon? In my moments of darkness, when I was going through all this, there was one sergeant that was there for me the whole time. He would call me, make sure I was okay, and took care of me, and in such a way that I really appreciated. And we became the best of friends. And that sergeant is now the chief of police. So he got his okay and got the green light, and it turned out to be a great story. I'll send you the episode. It's I haven't had many guests come in and have gone through the whole process only to get reinstated. But what I'm really looking forward to, and hopefully whoever's watching and listening, is maybe you have the courage and the strength to come on the job, and to come on the podcast and tell me that, yes, I screwed up. I went and got terminated. I went to a board of rights or whatever department. I got served and I got terminated. And here I am, and I'm going to tell my story so that others can learn, and hopefully they won't do the same things that I did. I haven't had a guest yet, but I'm sure hopefully in the near future I'll get that, because there's a lot of lessons learned. And again, we don't have to name names or agencies, just a story that's going to have an impact on the 2,600 subscribers and going up that we have thus far. So
Mike, if you get Zippy's approval, you're in.
Well, I'm my domestic watch commander said I can do whatever I want, so I'm good with that.
Ooh.
But I know at least one case right off the top of my head where a guy did nothing wrong and got fired.
yes,
and got his job back, and he's thriving now. I would use him as an example. I don't have to
He,
use,
yeah,
but this
or
this
get a
this
hold of him, or if you know him, or if I can get a hold of him, I would love to have him come on.
no. This guy, he's a straight up guy, and even though he got fired as a deputy, they rehired him as a custody assistant, which is a 20% of the pay. And they screwed with him for a couple of years. But what was he doing? He was showing people that were going out to patrol what they should have in their war bags. He'd tell them what they need to have, what kind of equipment they should do, what studying they should do, how they should prepare for going out, all the while with this hanging over his head. The guy is one of the most straight up dudes I've ever met. And I'm very proud of him for how because you know what? He went from CA to deputy to sergeant, and he's on the lieutenant's list now. So, you can recover, but it takes a lot of internal frostos, a lot of guts. So,
you know what? And Mike, you spot on that comment. I totally agree. Look, if I got terminated and I am to be held accountable for the things that I did, yeah, that's a big responsibility for you to come on and suck it up and tell your story. That it's not an easy decision to make, because what are we talking about? We're talking about disciplinary matters. These are the conversations that never happen. They don't. It's a bit taboo. You're telling me about cases that happened decades ago. I'm telling you about things that happened, 15, 20 years ago. And here's the deal. One of many reasons to have this podcast is to get those stories so that we can just learn. That's all it is. Look, if we're going to hold the department accountable and say, hey, the department, screwed me, I'm okay with that. I don't want you to come on and have an axe to grind or just, talk shit and vent. I'm okay with saying, hey, the department did me wrong. But let's just do it in a very professional, respectful way. And if you want to tell me what the department is, that's on you. If you don't want to tell me what the department is, I'm good with that too. But at the end of the day, just just be transparent, be honest. That's what the platform is for. And by the way, I have gotten, I want to say about 2 or 3 that have been terminated. One in particular is worked at another agency, and he also got let go. And I had the story that this particular person was telling me. I had to make some phone calls just to make sure. And again, goes to what I was saying early. You're only going to hear what you want to hear, always. And so lucky me that I have my connections, and I called a good friend of mine who happens to work for this department. And he told me a whole different story there. He's like, dude, he got fired for very, very good reasons. So anyways.
Yeah.
Hey, before you say anything, Ken, I see you popped up that subscribe button. Anybody that's watching this, please like and subscribe this, please. The more likes and subscriptions we get, Ken and I are going to be able to split 50 cents somewhere down the line. And
that's right.
That's big money in retirement, pal. So
that's big money.
Please subscribe.
This comment here, many feel the system when they are pulling retirement. One thing LAPD is great at is making life for you miserable and life and death. I don't know. I feel kind of untouchable in retirement because I'm pulling my pensions and I don't work for them anymore. So I've been pretty vocal about a lot of things, and I don't see LAPD getting too pissed off about it. Cause
hey, you know what's funny about that? I used to follow the rules and take my shots, especially when that piece of crap executive was chasing me around before he went to federal prison. But at one point in time, I went down to LaSera, the LA County Retirement Association, and I saw what my numbers were, my percentages, and I walked out of there with my tail in the air. I had a new step, and I was like, I am not going to do anything I don't want to do. I am not going to let anybody talk to me the way they've talked to me in the past. And you know what? If they don't like me the way I am, I'm going to, turn tail. I'm going to pick up second base. I'm walking out the door. And ever since I got that attitude, things actually picked up for me. lot less stressful. And I think Lacera is a wonderful employer. They pay me whether I sleep all month or drink all month or don't even wake up. Right.
Look,
And
look at
so, yeah.
LA Cycle says, I've been subscribed to all channels from these casted characters and I have got paid nothing.
Hey, to the comment about many fear the system when they are pulling retirement.
Yes.
No, bro. Hey, man, I've been on it for. I launched the podcast in November. It's been 7 months. We're at 800,000 views, close to 1 million. We're going to get to 1 million before the year is over, before the year mark. And 2,600 subscribers. I can tell you about 80% of those are LAPD. And I did run into a command staff officer when I was speaking in the state of Indianapolis. And he himself also said that he's watching. And, I got my lookouts in the building. And everybody loves it, man. You know what? It's a good idea. And I'm blessed. I'm thankful for it. So.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I retired from LAPD in 2003, and I retired from backgrounds in 2018, and I run my own ship now, man. So
yeah, feels good.
One time, one of my sergeants who had promoted to lieutenant, I ran into him later on in life, and he goes, Ken, the difference between 19 years and 20 years in one day is that 20 years you can fire the department. Ken, the difference between I'm hearing.
Yeah, someone is. Someone's recording us, and they're going to turn it into LAPD. That's what's going to happen.
Someone is.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, see, it's Mike. Mike.
Damn it!
You can never trust those XL.
That's it. The ovaries. Our ovaries are stolen. That's Mike.
I was looking for something. All of a sudden, it started talking to me.
Oh, sure.
All right.
That's what they all say.
Pay no attention to the man in front of the shortstop.
Well, we are just about out of time, and Marlon, just for everybody to know, is how can they catch up with you? You've got just tell us all the places they can find you.
Okay, so definitely on LinkedIn, Marlon Marrache, M-A-R-L-O-N, last name Marrache, M-A-R-R-A-C-H-E. Definitely Instagram is like my main hub to push my traffic into YouTube. So on Instagram, you got, IA_capers_podcast. The reason why I mentioned the word capers is because I actually opened up another channel for this show, another podcast called Capers. And that one in particular is just a quick story of a crazy, wild, life-saving pursuit, just gnarly caper that made you go, oh, shit, and tell us all about it. I think it's positive. Not many people, civilians, get to hear, what crazy police work we get into. And last but not least, my YouTube channel, the main one right here, man, Internal Affairs, a Police Podcast. Ken, thank you so much for inviting me, and Captain Mike. Thank you, man. I appreciate your everything that you had to offer in internal affairs. I know it's not an easy job, and thank you for all the insights.
Yeah, and we want to thank you for being here. There's something just reached to me and said, I got to have Marlon on here. It's going to be a kick in the pants, and I think that's the case. And you can find me on Instagram as well, and on YouTube, and you can find Mike on here. This is where Mike hangs out. Mm-hmm. Right here on this channel.
Right in front of this place here. Yeah.
Is your Instagram public, and can people follow you and find out all kinds of things that you're doing?
I believe that's so. Yeah, I think
Mike,
so. I don't think I have it restricted anyway.
Mike Bornman, is it Mike?
Yeah. Let's get you on. Let's get you on the show, Mike. That way we advertise this channel and grab everybody from the podcast and head on over to your channel as well. So let's get together soon.
Cool. Yeah, it'd be painless. Just let me know when.
You got it.
And if you guys could, please hit that subscribe button, and that's how we get everybody to know about us. And go over to Internal Affairs, a Police Podcast, and subscribe there and get all of Marlon's content too, because you publish at least once a week or something.
Yeah, I'm pushing at least 2 episodes a week now because I'm a little backed up, man.
Yeah, and you can Marlon texts some secret behind the curtain type of stuff with the people he gets on there, which is kind of cool. So
Thanks,
other
Ken.
than that, we will see you guys next week.